What's up everyone, Loybox here back with another ROX video. And in today's video, I will teach you how to build a Butcher Whitesmith. Short disclaimer before we begin on the actual guide. Please take note that the build that I am doing with my character is based on my personal preference, on my personal style. If you do have any other suggestions or if you have any corrections on the way I build, please don't hesitate to leave a comment on the comment section below. With that out of the way, let's begin with the actual build. First, let's discuss what is a butcher or why is this build called a butcher. Okay? A butcher is a nickname for Whitesmith during the classic Ragnarok days, which is basically focusing on the high attack speed and with critical damage as his main source of damage. Okay, so that is just a short history on the butcher build. Now let's talk about the stats. The first stat that is a main source of damage for a butcher Whitesmith is of course strength, which you should max out to level 90 as fast as you can. Other optional stats are vitality, agi, and luck. Agi, you will need this in order to increase your attack speed. Then vitality, you can add this in order to add more defense and more HP to your character, which will eventually increase your survivability during battle. And last but not least is the luck. For each luck that you add to your stats, you are getting one additional physical attack. Also, it will increase your anti-crit and it will increase your critical chance as well. So for these stats, there are two major substats that you need to take note of, and that is your final crit and attack speed. For the final crit, you need to have at least 120% final crit. So why do we need 120% final crit? Because higher level monsters, including the MVP bosses, mini bosses, instance boss, all of these monsters have a anti-crit stat on them. And those are very high for the bosses. So what is anti-crit? Anti-crit is the stat that stops you from dealing critical damage. So we need a total of 120% in order for us to produce a 100% critical chance. So what do I mean by that? It means that if you reach 120%, all of your damages will be critical. You will not be dealing white damages. Because every time you deal white damages on this particular build, it reduces your total DPS or your total damage per second. So how do we compute for the final crit? First, you need to open your details, go to the crit, and click on the number. Then it will give you a percentage of your total crit from the raw crit. So right here, I have a 74.37 final crit chance. Then this number, you need to add it to your final crit. You need to add 74.37 and 38.4, which will give us a total of 112.77% final crit. So as you can see, I still haven't reached the recommended final crit percentage. So I'm still working on it. Next is your attack speed. The recommended attack speed is at least 800%. If you can push it up to 1000, the better. So currently, my attack speed is 448.56. Then you can add that to the final attack speed, which gives us a total of 819.06% final attack speed. Now, as for the armors, just like any other Whitesmith build, you can go for white, you can go for blue or you can go for Valkyrie armors. The main difference between these three armors is, first of all, the white sets gives us different effects, but for the white set, I would highly recommend using the armor from Drake, which will give you additional damage every time the enemy reaches 30% HP or lower. Second armor that I can recommend is the blue armor. Actually, this is my favorite, which once you have unlocked the ferocity set bonus, for every unit killed, final damage bonus is increased by 3% for 30 seconds, and it will stack up to 5 times. Basically, it means that every time you kill a monster, your final damage bonus will be increased, and it can be multiplied by 5 as you can get up to 5 stacks. So 5 times 3, that's a total of 15% additional final damage bonus. Now, if you are the type of player that always do MVP hunting or mini bosses and you want more survivability, then I would highly recommend using a Valkyrian armor, as it will give you additional survivability on its set bonus. When taking total damage equal to 10% of max HP, increase physical damage reduction by 5% for 10 seconds. Okay? The only downside of this armor is it is very difficult to refine, as it requires more materials or elunium. Now, let's talk about the weapon. For the weapon, you can use white items as well. But for me, I prefer using the blue Royal Hammer, which I will be upgrading to Lord's Hammer in the future. Reason for using this is because I like the stats. Please take note that +4 of any blue weapon is equivalent to a +6 white weapon. Okay? So I'm using Royal Hammer. If you want gold items or gold weapon, I can also recommend the Bloody Cross, which has an exclusive skill that says during the battle every 30 seconds, enter Berserk state and increase critical damage bonus by 8% for 10 seconds, which is very, very useful, especially for PvE, boss hunts, and even for AFK farming. Also, highly recommended is the Nemesis, which give you an AoE damage effect. Every time your normal attack hits the target, there's a 20% chance to deal neutral physical damage to up to 3 enemies within 2 meters from the target. So this is very useful when dealing with medium and small monsters. Now, as for the shield, early on, I would recommend using the Imperial Guard's Kite Shield, as it will give you a very high HP and physical damage bonus as well. But later on, once you have reached level 80, I would highly recommend using the Bridium Shield, as it will give you additional attack speed and HP as well. Now, let's move on to the accessories. Since we are a critical build, for the accessory, I highly recommend using Mateer Ring once you have reached level 70. But early game, I highly recommend the Noble Bright Silver Brooch, as it increases your physical attack and crit. Final crit for the refine and attack as well. So early game, let's say below level 70, you can use the Noble Bright Silver Brooch. Then once you have reached level 70, you can switch to the Mateer Ring. For the Talisman, early game, I would highly recommend the Elegant Incense, as this will be one of your main source of attack speed early game. This will give you attack speed on the upgrade and final attack speed on the refine. Then, once you have reached level 70, you have two options. First, if you have a low final crit, let's say if you're not able to reach 120% final crit, then you can use the Vesper Core. But if you already have a final crit of 120%, then I would highly recommend using the certificate, which increases your crit damage for every refinement. As for the headgears, first I recommend Sinulog Hat, as it will give you additional strength and attack, and also 1 defense. For the eyes, I recommend using the Angel Spirit, as it will give you additional 2% attack. And for the mouth, I am recommending the Blood Rose for the additional 1% attack. Next, let's talk about cards. For the armor cards, you have the option to use HP cards. And those cards are as follows. For the clothes, I recommend the max HP 20% card, which is from the Sky Petite. Alternatively, you can also use a Diablo card, which will give you additional HP regen of 2% every 5 seconds and max HP of additional 8%. For the shoes, I recommend using the Dagger Wielding Goblin card, which will give you additional 20% max HP. And you can also use the Ranga card, which will give you final physical damage reduction of 4% and final magic reduction of 4% as well. Then for the cloak, you can go for the Marionette card, max HP of 20%. Or you can also go for the Shion card, which will give you final physical defense of +4 and final magic defense of +4 as well. Now, moving on to the accessories card. Early game, I would recommend using Golem card, as it will help you increase your final attack speed. So if you will use 3 Golem card for 30% attack speed each, you will get a total of 90% additional final attack speed. By the end game, I would highly recommend using the Bloody Knight card, which will give you 20% additional critical damage bonus. So if you will use 3 Bloody Knight, you will get a total of 60% additional crit damage bonus. Now, as for the weapon card, early on, I would recommend the Anubis card, which will give you final crit of 8%. So a total of 24% if you will use 3 Anubis card. And for the late game, I recommend using the Raedric Archer card, which will give you a final crit of 10% for each. A total of 30% final crit once you have used 3 cards on your 2 on your weapon and 1 on your shield. As for the headgear cards, I recommend using the Marduk card, which will give you final physical damage bonus of 6%, which is a total of 18% final physical damage bonus if you use 3. Then alternatively, you can also use the Beni Maru card, which will give you a final physical damage bonus of 8% and final magic damage bonus of 8% as well, which gives a total of 24% additional final damage bonus. Now let's talk about the skill build. As we are doing mostly normal attacks, most of our skills are the passive ones. So these are the most important skills to have when using a butcher build. First off, we have the battle wheel, which should be at level 10. Crazy uproar, also at level 10. Overthrust, level 10 as well. Weaponry research, also level 10. Skin tampering, level 5. Adrenaline rush at level 10. Weapon perfection at level 5. We have Unfair Trick, Greed, and Zenny Utility all at level 10. Then Savage Slash at level 5. This is only to unlock Meltdown, which should be at level 10. Then we have Savagery at level 10. Then we have here Maximum Overtrust, which I only use up to level 5 because for AFK farming, I wouldn't recommend level 10 as it is very expensive. It costs 2,000 Zenny and it will last only for a few seconds. So if you're trying to avoid having negative Zenny, then I recommend only level 5. Then we have Hurl Zenny at level 5. And that is only to unlock Zenny Storm at level 1. And I'm using Zenny Storm only to increase the Odin burning effect or to increase the speed of Odin burning. Also, Zenny Storm will help us in clearing daily mission board quests as fast as we can. Also, this is very useful for doing instance and otherworld gate and other activity as such. As you can notice, I have additional 8 remaining skill points. These skill points you can distribute to any skill that you want. It's up to you. For me, I have distributed extra skill points on pushcart. I have added enlarged weight limit and weight utility because I'm thinking maybe I would add cart blitz and cart assault. But these skills are very optional. The skills that I have mentioned earlier, those are the only main build skills. These skills are the building blocks of being a Whitesmith Butcher build. Next, let's talk about the shadow equipment. As you can see, I'm currently shadow equipment level 4. For the inscription, I suggest upgrading everything and do the same for the pioneer. For the bound, for PvE purposes, I highly recommend leveling up the battle wheel 1, which will increase the final physical damage bonus by 3.75%, stacks up to 4. Then Adrenaline Rush 2, which will give you an additional of 75% final attack speed. And also, it will increase your damage to large and medium monsters by 7%. And you have 2 options here on the validation. If you're trying to save Zenny, then you can use the Maximum Overtrust. But for daily mission boards, for doing ET, for doing instances or boss hunts, I recommend using the Zenny Storm 1. Now, as for enchantments, I recommend using strength enchantments for your armors. Unfortunately, I still haven't done any enchantments on my armor. These are all from the Kingdom Pass quest. Then for the weapon and shield, you have 2 options. One, you can either go for direct physical attack or you can go for strength enchantments. In my case, I'm planning on getting the GH strength enchantments for my weapon and shield. For the accessories and talisman, I would highly recommend using the fire enhancement enchant, which is from Islud. This will greatly increase your damage during PvP and during PvE as well. But please do take note that you need to use a fire converter in order to activate the fire enchantment. For more details of why I recommend the fire enchantment, you can check out our previous video, which is the Pyrosmith video, which I will link here on top. Also, The fire enchantment is in preparation for the mechanic job, which will be released soon here in our server. And there will be a lot of skills for the mechanic that focuses on the fire damage. So I promise you, you will not regret using the fire enchantment on your accessories and talisman. And lastly, let's talk about what are the recommended pets for a butcher whitesmith. First, you can get the grasshopper, which will give you physical attack, crit, attack speed, physical damage reduction, physical damage bonus, and defense. Also, you can get the yo-yo, which will give you final physical defense, final physical damage reduction, crit damage bonus, attack, final attack speed, and final physical damage. But for me personally, what I'm using as a pet is the baby desert wolf. Not because of the stats, but I'm using this pet because of the skills, which are focused mainly on fire damage. For example, I have here the ultimate skill, Fireball, which is at level 1. This particular skill summons a fireball from the sky, dealing 144 fire damage of a type that matches your own, meaning this is a physical damage, fire physical damage, to the target and enemies within 2.5 meters around them. Also, it adds a fire mark stack to their master upon casting. Once 4 stacks are accumulated, gain 20% fire enhancement for 15 seconds. So as you can see, this will stack together with your fire enchantments and with the skin tempering additional 20% fire damage. And this is only at level 1. This enhancement can reach up to 75% once you have reached level 12. And later on, I'm planning to evolve this pet into a desert wolf. Now let's take a look at the stats given by the desert wolf. It gives us final physical pen, final P pen, final haste, attack, final P damage reduction, and final physical damage bonus. Only these two will be very useful for us as we don't need a lot of pen and haste. But what interests me the most from this pet is the skill, which is very similar to our pet, the baby desert wolf. And that's it for today's video. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions or clarification, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. Also, if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to click on the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace!